It's a 30-minute infrared workout, just a space that people feel comfortable to come into.
What are the benefits of infrared as opposed to just making the room hotter?
Overwhelming responses around my skin is better and I'm sleeping better. I didn't believe it at the start. Probably within a week, I was like, this is the thing. People thought I'd lost my mind, because I was literally pulling out one treadmill and one cross train, and then started adding a couple of TRXs. People were like, what's that? And replacing it with seems like nothing.
What gave you confidence to take that going, you know what, this model will work?
A few things, the coach is a problem from an intimidation point of view. If you come into a class experience and you can't do the thing that they're asking you to do, it's kind of embarrassing. The thought is how do I get out of this as fast as possible? And I'm never coming back.
Yeah, there is a difference between almost being a cheerleader to coaching. What are some of the big shifts that are going to happen because of technology? What do you foresee?
Look, I think
Welcome to a special episode of Profit Made Simple. We have an amazing guest here today. He's actually the founder of Australia's fastest growing franchise, Gym, Joy and Movement. Welcome to the show, Jarad.
Thanks for having me.
Mate, this is an exciting interview. You and I have known each other for a long time. Mm-hmm. We met each other, even though we're both Sydney-based. We met each other in LA at a workshop at Perform Better. Mm. And at the time, I knew that you wanted more than to be a gym owner. You had one gym at that point in time, and it seemed like you were destined for more. You were searching for more, and now you found a gym. In your wildest dreams, would you perceive that this was possible?
Yes. Yeah, but but not the way it turned out, obviously. But yeah, it felt from the start. It felt that was something that was in the future for sure. Just was trying to figure it all out though, put it all together, and it's been quite a journey.
It has, hasn't it? Mm. It's taken a few different iterations. Let's talk about, let's first start with describing what is gym for those that haven't heard of it. And then I want to talk about how we landed at this concept.
Sure. So how I would describe Joy Movement. So it's a 30-minute infrared workout. It's an automated workout experience, and it runs in a small boutique sort of studio space, typically 50 to 70 square meters. So that's kind of the short version of it, in terms of the product. So infrared workouts. So there's sort of from a consumer point of view that, they work, the workouts, I guess, would be low impact, full body, designed for a beginner, maybe intermediate, but just a space that people feel comfortable to come into. So no judgment, so dark spaces, no mirrors, no coach, which probably be a good talking point at some
Absolutely.
point. And automation and technology to make things more convenient for the consumer, and obviously a better business model for the franchisee or the owner operator.
Okay, let's talk about how we landed there, because it's a very distinct product. There's nothing like it in the marketplace whatsoever, which I think is one of the many contributing reasons to its growth itself. How did you land there and go, okay, there's a need right now, A, for infrared workouts, B, in a small footprint when everyone seems to be going bigger and larger. It's not coach-led. So you're breaking down a lot of these just norms or assumptions within the industry itself. So how did we land there? Because your original gym wasn't like that at all, right? So
Totally.
How did you land on this concept? What did you see that others couldn't?
Well, I think, to be honest, it was probably more an idea stacked on top of an idea, or innovation on top of innovation. So I don't think it was one light bulb moment. It was probably, 20 years of being in the fitness industry, running small boutique studios, and just sort of coming to a point of realization on certain elements, and then testing things, and trying and iterating, and then sort of going from there. And so I think specifically on the gym kind of moment, I think originally it was one of the ideas I'd had was creating a more commercial / more enjoyable experience around like stretching and mobility, like, and similar to like Bikram yoga, like in terms of a heated environment. So I had, throughout the years, it was always like, oh, like, what's the solution for stretching, or like, or doing some of these like more corrective exercises that are typically a little bit more boring and whatnot. And so the studio that I had some space, and I thought, well, maybe I'll test that idea about like heating up a space and running some classes out there. And I think, but I kind of knew that from the angle of like things that I didn't like about like my experience when I went and tried like a Bikram yoga class was, it was 90 minutes. So it was too long.
Yeah.
It was hard to breathe. It was like quite not a comfortable experience. It felt good being in a heated environment and stretching. But I also was there for stretching. And it was then that I realized yoga goes a bit deeper than that with some of the reasons why they do what they do. And so to me, it felt a bit weird, like a bit of a not my kind of vibe. And so I just didn't like the experience overall. But I like the idea from a sports science point of view of like increasing blood circulation, improving movement, stretching, mobility. And I thought, so I'd always had that in the back of my mind of like, man, someone's going to do something with that, like as in make it a bit more commercial, I guess, like something that's a bit more fit for the whole market, not just a small.
So there was components of it that you could see would work that were desirable, the actual heated room, some of the methodology and the science behind that and what that enables. But then there were other elements where you went, you know what, that doesn't create an amazing consumer experience. How can we take some of the good of that and then use that as a base or a model for the first iteration of gym? Totally. Yes. And I think similar to yourself, like I sort of landed in the functional space pretty early. And so my sort of focus was on trying to create a model around, functional training. So that could be like franchised or scaled. But I just, and I worked on different models. You looked at the semi-private model for a long time, didn't you? You were really ahead of your game on in that space. Yep. And that was the first model that you were looking to scale beyond your own location.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. So that was, I think it might have been 2013, I think, is when I think I flew to America and to Atlanta first, and I met Rick Mayo because previously he'd been at Filex. And that's when I first heard about functional training. So, I was sort of like, what is that? Like, what is he talking about? He's talking about kettlebells, and I'm like, what's a kettlebell? Like, it's not in Australia yet, to my knowledge, although I think you probably would have been there at that time with kettlebells and stuff like that. Like, you were right there.
But there was not much going on in that space. It really wasn't. I mean, when we launched our first kettlebell course in 2009, people had no idea what the tool was. Functional training was this big umbrella term. No one really knew what it was, but it encompassed a lot of things.
Yeah.
And you were an innovator in that space, so much so that you went to Rick's gym in Atlanta to learn more about it.
Yes. I have to be honest though, the reason I went is because he was, and I think it was Thomas Plummer that used to sort of dub him as like having America's most profitable gym.
He did.
And for me, I've always been more on the business side of fitness, like less on the technical side. So I've always been fascinated with just trying to create like a highly profitable fitness business. So when I heard that, that's what got my attention. And when I flew out to America, it was literally to just try and understand how he was operating his business. And he had told me just prior that he licenses his systems and processes, and he's basically his whole operations manual. And I was like, I'm in. like if you're doing that as a licensing model, like I'm in, but like I need to like learn it. And so when I flew out there, but I was shocked and sort of taken back because when I walked into his space, it was like the AstroTurf, and there was like, the kettlebells and the battle ropes, and everything was free weights, suspension, things hanging from the ceiling. And it just looked like a zoo. But it was all like he was running like all these like small group, like trainers with like, 4 people in them. And it was, it was amazing. But we had this moment where he was like, so tell me about your current space and what's in there. And I was like, well, I've got 3 treadmills, 3 cross trainers, 3 bikes, and I've got all the pin loaded machines. And he was like, yeah, okay, you're going to need to get rid of all that. And I was like, absolutely not. I've just paid that off. Like, that's a lot of money. Like that took me 3 years. I own all that equipment. There is no way. And he was like, but you want to do, and then he was like, oh, you don't know what functional, and then he basically took the time to explain functional training and, in a short version, basically saying like sitting's kind of like the new cancer, like, all of the problems related with that from, obviously tight hip flexors, weak glutes, weak core, back pain, neck pain, like, teeth, like all the things. And I was like, yeah, it's still not enough, like to get like, and then he sort of diving into the joint by joint theory and then how he screens people through like the FMS. And then, I don't know, I think it was his conviction about movement and how our role is to like help people move better. Like, as in, you've got people getting up in the morning, they're sitting in a car, driving to work, and they get to the office, they sit in a desk, and then they get in their car and they drive home, and they might stop at the gym, and you're telling me you want to sit them in a machine? Yeah. Like, and I was like, yeah, okay, got it. Like, makes kind of sense. But I just like, I don't know what it was. So I think it's just something about it, like that kind of clicked. Resonated. And I was like, okay, I haven't, up until that point, it had just been like, nutrition, exercise like 3 times a week, do a bit of strength work, bit of conditioning and accountability with like the personal training piece. That was really all. So to me, I was more about the combination of those 3 elements, less about the doing a workout as such. Yeah. But I was like, oh, I think I have a responsibility like to change. And it was painful because I had, and literally people thought I'd lost my mind. Like, cause I was like literally pulling out slowly. Like I did it slowly, like in my business, like pulling out like, one treadmill and 1 cross trainer, like, and then started adding a couple of TRXs. People were like, what's that? Like getting rid of a couple of machines, people just like freaking out that I was, and replacing it with like what seems like nothing.
Yeah. Minimalist equipment.
Yeah.
So a couple of like really significant experiences shaped the concept of gym. Experience in Bikram yoga, experience meeting Rick, going overseas, having a look at this different models, different delivery, which was again at the time, it was so innovative. It was so opposing to what we kind of considered a gym or a workout space.
Yeah.
How did you land at no coach? Because that's obviously a really big one, because the model you did have was very coach centric. Mm-hmm. And now a hallmark of gym is that there is no coach leading the class. What made you, like, that feels like a big risk. It feels like a big leap to take.
Yeah.
What gave you confidence to take that, going, you know what, this model will work without that in place?
Few things. So one thing, like in my mind, like there is a coach and his name is Jim. And so the class is powered by Jim. So Jim runs the class. And so Jim can speak and like, as in like, and can show like how to do the certain movements on the screens. And so I think there is an element of coaching. It's just a little bit different. Because obviously coaching.
So Jim is your voice instructions, but there's also visual as well components.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. And I think how I landed on it was, I think sometimes I think the coach is a problem in terms of from an intimidation point of view, or maybe even not maybe intentionally, but maybe some judgment that can come through from the coach when they're training clients, or people can maybe just, some people like respond well to like that motivational style, like getting pushed or challenged or yelled at, or like, come on, like blowing the whistle, like the military style. Like some people are like, no, like I need that. Other people, it's a turn off. And I think, so I was always looking at how do we attract people into the gym who maybe don't like gyms? What are the problems? Like, and again, so I'm thinking like the coach is probably one of them. The space is often one of them. The workouts, they're often too hard. Like, like it wouldn't be, you would be pretty standard for someone to, if they wrote like a basic program to put, say, push-ups in it. But how many people do you think can actually do a push-up?
Not many.
Like, so if you come into class experience and you can't do the thing that they're asking you to do, like that's kind of embarrassing. And there can sometimes be a sense of shame or guilt. And so I think that can sometimes it can be like the coach can play a pivotal role, but in a group setting, it's really hard. Like, especially when you're looking around and you're seeing other people. I mean, for me as well, even in like that Bikram class that I went to, like I can't touch my toes. So like, but I'm in a bright, lofty room, lots of mirrors, the instructor's folded in half at the front, everybody like, and I feel exposed and I feel like, it's an insecurity, but it's a real thing. And the thought is like, how do I get out of this space as fast as possible? And I'm never coming back.
So really interesting is you were very clear on who gym was for. So it was for the person that wouldn't feel comfortable in the mainstream gym.
Yeah.
It was for the person that may feel intimidated by the traditional fitness experience, the really super fit, super muscular presenter or, facilitator, teacher up at the front, the programming itself where you're actually it's almost created in a way to make you feel deficient, the space where it feels like there's a spotlight on you. So all of these things were very purposeful. It wasn't like, oh, we're just not going to have an instructor. It's like, no, what are all the things that get in the way? What are all the obstacles that make someone feel maybe not as welcome as they possibly could? Let's remove those. Let's curate an experience from the size, the lighting, the instructor, the programming that makes it easier for beginners.
Yes, absolutely. And I think if I go back on the movement piece, so one of the things I was doing in the other studio after like having worked like a bit with Rick, were around like we would screen people, so we would run them through like an FMS, and or like a functional movements screen, and basically just see the same things over and over. Like, oh, okay, poor ankle mobility, got it. Like, okay, yep, hip mobility, yep, T-spine mobility. Okay, yeah, wow, okay, can you? And so in his model, like in any good like coach, they might have you're working. Let's say you're working through a full body workout, so you're breaking it down into movement patterns. And once you understand the movement pattern, it's very then easy to like progress it or regress it. And what I found was for the clients I was serving, it was always regressing. And I think there's a good saying in that world around like not adding load to dysfunction. And so I think a lot of the times that's where injuries occur and people don't have the right mobility or stability in their joints. And so, i.e. they're not moving well. Yeah. So let's not load them up with a big heavy weight. For the sake of like strength training. So it's almost like step one is start moving well. And hence I was starting to lean more into the corrective exercise sort of space and like looking for like maybe a solution around that as well. So, and that's, and I think if I carry on with that, how things came about. So like when I heated the room, like I don't pretend to be like an infrared specialist or like, scientist or anything like that on the tech side. It was more like looking, how do I best heat the room? And I was just fortunate to, a person recommended, you should use infrared heating panels as opposed to, maybe what some of the traditional yoga studios might do where they just push hot air into the space through like a air conditioning unit.
What are the benefits of infrared as opposed to just making the room hotter?
Yeah. So at that stage, I didn't know. It was literally just what's the most efficient way to heat the room. Yeah. To be completely honest. And then, but when I was in the room experiencing it, that's when I was like, wait, I can breathe really comfortably. And I'd call the guy and I'd be like, hey, explain it to me again. Like, how does this work? Like, and he's like, well, it's sort of like heating objects. So like whatever's in the room, like that's what it's like the infrared heat. That's what it's penetrating. And I'm like, okay. And I'm like, so that's why the humidity doesn't rise. And he's like, yeah, totally. And I'm like, and that was that light bulb moment of like, hang on a minute, you could do a workout in this. And I think this particular person, because he typically would just replace panels in like yoga studios, he was like, oh, why would you do that? And I'm like, well, it kind of makes sense because like it's going to increase blood circulation. So it's good for movement, but if we can do corrective exercises, it's more than just stretching and mobility. And then maybe we can even look at, like similar to like a workout, like a functional training workout, I can put that in there as well. And then I've got something that's like from a commercial point of view, a better business where it's not just stretching and mobility. It's a bit more of a like a one-stop shop from a
little bit more all-encompassing, a few different outcomes that you can get concurrently.
Yeah.
So I'm just starting to see all the pieces of the puzzle come together. So understanding around functional movement and dysfunction, a lot of that came from Rick's initial influence.
Mm-hmm.
You're seeing the importance of mobility and stretching, but then, didn't love the way that it was delivered in other modalities. See the benefits of a heated room, but in particular an infrared room. Yeah. And so now these pieces of the puzzle are coming together.
Yes. And so now comes the testing part. And I think this will answer that question around the infrared, which is so people who would, and again, it was just because I would test it and like get people to do feedback and like see how they kind of responded to it. But just overwhelming responses around my skin is better and I'm sleeping better. And at first didn't quite fully grasp it. And I was like, that's odd. Like I've never heard that before in all the years in the industry. Like no one's come back and said, I'm just actually sleeping better. Like, or my skin is just, I really feel like my skin. And I thought it was like, I didn't believe it at the start. I was like, there's no way. Like, and then I was like, hang on a minute, the infrared heat, what's it doing again? And then I'm like, oh, it's detoxifying people like through pulling out heavy metals and toxins out of their skin because of the infrared heat. I'm like, oh, because it's like an infrared sauna. I'm like, right. Like, and I always sort of tell that story because to be transparent and just to be like, that wasn't the intention. But all of a sudden I'm like, oh, there's a whole bunch of wellness benefits.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, this is crazy.
This has more opportunities than what I initially envisioned.
Yeah. Yeah. And so that was that was crazy to think, okay, well, we're going to, I guess, tackle the wellness piece as well. And just, so that was overwhelming. And even just like calorie burn as well. Like, again, people typically, maybe in the Pilates space, sometimes want more, like as in, and there's some models out there now where they've gone, oh, we're going to add some cardio to it, or we're going to add some strength to it because it's not quite enough. But indirectly, we've done that as well, similar to like a Pilates, but just because of the heart rate being increased because of the heat. So like people doing like a, mat Pilates or more of a stretching style class, that's low output in effort, but they're literally burning the same amount of calories as like a HIIT class. So we had like a low impact but high intensity class, but it was a low output of effort, which is a little mind blowing. Like, again, people looking at there telling me like how many calories they burn and whatnot.
And so they're getting great caloric expenditure, but they're not putting the stress on their joints or their body at the same time.
Yes, which is great for a beginner or
huge,
or someone who doesn't feel like they're fit enough, strong enough, can keep up in a class, but still want the benefits of, sweating, like losing weight, getting fit, all those sort of things. So, it just seemed like a pretty special kind of thing.
When did you realize that you had a concept here that was bigger than your one studio, where you went, you know what? I believe this can be franchised. When did that realization happen for you?
When I after I'd set it up, basically, because in my mind, I was like, it probably needs to be certain size, certain space. And I'm not sure, like, I'm going to have to invest to like test this. And then when I realized, oh wait, my balcony space, I could probably just test it there first. And literally as soon as I'd sort of run the first test, probably within a week, I was like, okay, yeah, this is the thing. This is it. Like I haven't fully figured it out yet, but I'm like, this is the thing. And a big piece of it was, I guess the first point, and this is more on the business, sort of the economics of it, which is the size that it can operate in. So the fact that I could have, at that stage I had 10 mats and it was basically like 2.5 by almost 15 meters. It was like little over 35 square meters.
So you're running this model in 35 square meters. Yeah,
I wasn't running it as an actual no one knew about it. Like it was a test lab, if you will.
Yeah.
But it was that realization of, they're staying on the mat and I can get the mats this close to each other and I can space it out. And then, oh, wow, I'm going to be able to like potentially open these and just, again, using the industry, knowing the numbers, utilization rates and all this sort of stuff. So I was like, okay, I'm pretty sure 12 mats, we should be able to get to like 150, maybe pretty comfortably, like membership wise, and knowing the numbers and the model. I was like,
and what's the average square meterage for a location?
Probably 60 square meters.
Yeah, it's crazy. So 60 square meters. 12 per class, and you are looking at about 150 members per location. Is that the target?
Initially, that's what it was. Because it was more like around, based on like that, $50 to $60, our membership price point, and it's obviously it's a low initial investment, so there's a really fast return on investment. So it's a great owner operator model. But then we had a couple of locations crack 200, and then I was like, I'm sort of jumping around a bit on the storyline, but and it was like, oh wow, I didn't think that would be possible in this sort of space.
Yeah.
But because of how we run the classes, we run like classes on the hour, every hour from like 5 a.m. till 9 p.m., 7 days a week.
It just spreads out.
Just spreads out. And so then we had a few hit 250. We just had one hit 300, which is like, they've got 14 in their space. Like,
is that a little bit bigger? So that's a slightly bigger?
Like not much bigger. It's pretty close to the normal sort of specs.
I just love that you've just broken down some of the norms, because you look at a traditional fitness business, two biggest expenses,
rent and wages,
the space and wages.
Yeah.
You've created a model where you do it in a tiny footprint. So all of a sudden the leases are, very, very small relative to other franchise or other different models. And then the second part is, we've talked about it, is not having the coach and not having to have a ton of coaches either. So immediately you said they get return on investment very, very quickly. So when I look at it from a concept perspective, I look at a couple of things. Number one is, does this serve a need in the market? Yes, there's nothing like it before. This is a model that's been able to marry wellness and fitness together. It's a model that is really curated for the beginner. So there's a need there, and we've qualified that need through our lab. The second component, though, is the actual financials.
Yeah.
And I think this is where I'm just going to be very transparent. I think this is where a lot of franchises have really struggled. I think it looks good on a spreadsheet. It doesn't look good in reality. And then a lot of franchisees that I speak to are really working very, very hard just to make ends meet. And it's because they've got to do big fit outs. So they've got much more significant CapEx. They've got to have teams of at least 5 to 6 just to service the clientele. Then you've got your franchise fees, your leases, and everything else on top of it. Where in your model, you've made it financially viable. And I remember speaking to you at our son's camp.
Yeah.
So we had coincidentally, Jarad and I just always cross paths wherever we go. We both had gyms in the Shire in Sydney. We'd met in LA. He lived where I was living in Botany.
Yeah.
And then our sons ended up going to the same school together.
Mm-hmm.
And I hadn't seen you for a number of years. And you were sharing this concept with me, and you'd shared a couple of the initial locations, and you were sharing the numbers that they were doing. And I was blown away, because I'd obviously owned fitness businesses by that stage for, the last 15 years. And just the margins that you were able to get to with this model justified everything else that I'd ever seen before. And so that must have been, and it must continue to be, huge in helping you. First, it would have just justified the concept, but now scale the concept.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I remember that. I remember showing you my phone, because I was like, it was just running from my phone. So it's like
you were showing me the numbers. You and you also had access to.
Oh, maybe I shouldn't say that, but
video as well of the actual location to show me what it was like, and I was just. You could see the little brain exploding over me, because I was like, "Wow, this is something else." Yeah,
yeah. I tested it first, so I launched it. I wanted to go straight into franchising, and I felt like I had the proof of concept, just my background in the fitness space, and having tested, probably 1,000 different classes, and having it really set up at my other gym, and monitoring it remotely on the cameras, and just watching it work and making sure everything works, from a tech point of view. And but yeah, I think at that stage there was two locations.
Yeah.
And I think I might have maybe sold a couple more at that stage as well. And so yeah, it was very, very early in, but to me that was you have to prove, like, it has to, like, it looks good on paper, but can you actually execute, and can it scale? And so, and I think, it does the model is so critical. There's a lot of great businesses that probably shouldn't be franchised because it's heavily built on the owner operator, and their skill and their ability, or their location or whatnot. So I think, for me, like, even when we bring people in, we're always trying to look at like the averages. Like, we try not to talk too much about like the high performers, because it's like it's above average for a reason, right? No one would say that they're average, but there's an average for a reason, right? And
correct.
So, but if the average is good, I think that's when you've got a good business model like that can scale, and then working really hard to make sure it stays within that. It's also challenging, even as it comes to like site sourcing and getting locations open. Like, we're really I just will still like, because we have like that sign off on each location. So a lot of times I just won't let a location open if the numbers aren't right, if it's outside of the unit economics of the business model, because it really does ensure their success. And try to take some of that emotion out of it. And I know as an example of that, I've seen it happen in other networks before. I remember walking through where I was living at the time in a location that I know their business model basically. And I saw the space that they were opening up in, and I thought, that's not part of them. That's not the model. Like that rent will be too high for, like a lot. Like it was in Cronulla in the strip mall where it's like close to $1,000 a square meter. And I was like doing the math going, that's not going to work. And I was like, how did that happen? Like, who approved that? How did that? And I don't know the backstory to it or any of that sort of stuff, but what I knew was it's not going to work. Yeah. And then, unfortunately 6 months later, that business is shut down, and it's sad. I don't want to see that. And I think I don't know if it's an oversight or what happened, but just you got to understand the model. Like, the unit economics are just critical. It can't just be that's a cool concept or like that's a cool idea, like infrared workouts, first to market. You've got to really understand the business that drives it to be successful and for it to scale as well. So
yeah, and you've obviously done that. So we were talking off camera before. You've got 40 plus studios open, 80 have actually been sold, selling about one a week at the moment. So it's been rapid growth. Like, that is significant.
Yeah.
What do you attribute the rapid growth to? If you could distill it into, a couple of core reasons.
So one is, I think, the product. Yeah. So infrared workouts. So being first to market with a product that's different, like actually different, not that we don't just say we're different. And I think when like, do you know what I'm saying? Like, as in,
I do. I mean, a lot of these franchises come out and I'm like, it looks exactly the same. Might have a nicer fit out. It might do something slightly different, but really it's just a different cover on the same concept.
Yeah. Like, it's the same. Yeah. It's the second, third of that initial model, different color. It could be purple, blue, red. Like, it doesn't. Yeah, and I think that's obviously why, like, and then price starts to come down, and that's kind of pretty standard in most industries, and there can be like a second or third player, and so it's not a knock on that type of thing. It's just more that first to market has advantages.
Absolutely, it does.
Even as it relates to marketing, like just running ads with infrared workouts, it's a bit gimmicky, but it gets clicks, like it gets people's attention.
It's distinct.
But it delivers on the back end, and I think. So I think I would say product would be the first part of it, and then secondly, it's the business model. It's without a doubt, and the business model is is how it's able to scale at the speed that it's scaling because of the simplicity of it. And also just like we don't try and sell franchises. Like we don't. Like a lot of things, it's like, and I think that's kind of, to me, that's kind of like what product market fit is. Like, as in, shouldn't have to push. Like it's a pull. Like it's, and that's because of the results. So like so all of our, I would say 99% are like of the locations are either, are a member, we're a member of a location or heard about it through someone who opened.
Okay. So it's not aggressive outbound sales or anything like that. It's just people experience the product, they see it, and they want to be part of it.
Well, I can give you an example of, so when I opened the first one, well, through the franchisee in Glenhaven. So again, took this from Rick Mayer, which was frequent sweaters. So we have like the board up there where we kind of put where people track their attendance, and goal is to sort of get 12 a month or 3 a week. And I think, so you had those two elements at play, which was the product. So you had members experiencing the product going, wow, I really enjoyed that workout. I enjoyed the music, the space, the sweat from the infrared, the simplicity of the workout. It was 30 minutes. I was in and out. Like I had a good experience. And obviously, but then those with like I would say maybe the business acumen or the more entrepreneurial spirit were like going, wait, there's the frequent sweaters board. They're counting the members. And then they're sort of, I heard them because I was sort of like floating around. They're like, is everyone paying what I'm paying? Like, okay. And then they would just come up like, I remember standing next to Dom, the franchisee, that like one of them just straight up like, how much is the rent here? And like, and
he was running the numbers in his
literally,
head.
Then he was like, okay. And, what else? How much is your electricity bill? And like literally just, okay, what else? And then I was like, and he was like, how do I
together a little
find out more
forecast
about this? Like, is this a franchise? And I was like, yep. And he was like, okay. And then, so basically what happened was like, then we just get a lot of inquiries like from that location. And then the next one opens and then more, that same kind of thing happens each time we open. And we've tried to, it was only, we just didn't have, it was because of the speed that things were moving. We just didn't have an opportunity to really do any, I didn't even have an Instagram for the we had it set up, but we hadn't even used the HQ Instagram for like up until maybe a year ago. The website's horrible. Like the whole thing, like it's like, there's no amazing funnel on the front end.
It's been very organic in terms of the growth itself.
Yeah. Yeah. And we just found one of the things, our GM, actually his initiative at this, he was like, hey, we should lean into like documenting the journey. Like, and I was like, yes, that's a great thing. Cause then it saves us the like telling the story over and over again as well, but then gives like a great, like an authentic way of doing it. And so we started doing like a monthly recap on our YouTube. And it's really raw. It's really scrappy. But it kind of, I think it builds trust and people can kind of see the growth in, like they can go back to the start and kind of watch it. Not that many do, but interestingly enough, I think that was, I'm not sure how it happened. Maybe it was, but someone somehow saw it from the UK and then watched like the from their words was like, we just watched the whole thing and then they like booked flights and they were like, they're out here and then they've signed a master franchise now. And so.
Wow. So that's how your master franchise in the UK came about. It wasn't through putting it out to tender. It wasn't going to international conferences. It was them just following along the journey and they wanted to be part of it.
Yeah. They just reached out and they're like, we've watched all the videos. We're going to fly our family out. We want to meet you. We want to have a look at the studios. And,
wow.
It's like,
that's crazy. Yeah. It is a really good example of product to market fit. It's a fantastic example. I wanted to ask you about your role because it's changed a lot, no doubt, in the last few years. You've gone from being a gym owner, a single location, very successful facility, to now being a franchisor, a founder. You've got all these franchisees that you need to look after. You've got a head office, and no doubt you've got a lot of competing demands. So talk to me about the adjustment. What skills have you had to learn? What's been the biggest lessons that you have uncovered making that shift?
Yeah, well, I think so. Right at the start, it was just me, so there were no employees. Like obviously, I tested the idea and then sold the first couple of franchises. But what I had at the time was like a support, like a not an EA, but like just someone just helping on the administrative sort of side. And Her name was Jess. And so, but she was like awesome in terms of helping sort of set up some of the operational processes and systems in the back end. But yeah, so for the first 6 months, like it was just me with her sort of getting it rolling. And then it was sort of like, and I've always sort of known like, okay, like the detailed operational bit is not my strength. So I really need to bring in somebody to play that role. But I think that's, so yeah, like I think in terms of like my role, so like we did try and bring in like initially like a GM and then even a CEO like at not too recently. And it was just not the right fit. It was probably more that I just needed to have the right operational person next to me.
Good acknowledgement of your strengths and weaknesses, though. Understanding, hey, look, operationally, it's not where I'm good at. I'm not where I'm great at. I can probably do it at a competent level, but I need someone really good in that space.
Yes. Yeah. And so, yeah, like I think too, like you can't delegate the vision, the mission, the core values, like, you know, the heart behind Gym, what we're trying to do, what we're trying to achieve. And I think for me, because I lean more on the innovation side and the product side, it's and I'm not like, so it's sort of easy to go, I'll stay over in this lane and we'll just bring in like someone to like kind of like run it. Not realizing that's kind of how you run it, but with the right team. Like, and so like you can't, yeah. So like, that's probably been my learning is like, yeah, it's just funny full circle. We've just got a EA now and it's all of a sudden it's working really well. And we've got our Aaron who's in the GM sort of role, but under more of a like more operations. And so we've built out a really solid, it's a small team, but a solid team. And yeah, so that's kind of, it's been an interesting sort of journey just because of this, like again, the speed of how fast things are going.
Yeah, no doubt. It's making you grow as a founder, as a business operator, because you're having to do many different things from what you did in the past. I wanted to ask you about technology, Jarad, because you've integrated technology into the model. You are very innovative. You are at the forefront. So if I was to say, how will fitness businesses change in the next 5 years? What are some of the big shifts that are going to happen because of technology? What do you foresee?
Well, like obviously like AI is the big one, right? So, and I think at the start and still now, like I sort of see Gym as a form of AI. That's kind of like at a larger scale, like the kind of vision I have for it. As in being able to still coach people and like run the class, power the class. And a lot of that is just, I guess, I don't know, I'm not sure if everyone's got different views on it, but I think a lot of, I think AI will be kind of like almost like categorized, like there'll be like a legal, like I think now it's already happening. Like I think if you're in the legal space, I think Harvey's like the AI agent that most law firms use. And then in this industry, it's this one and this one over here. And so I think like people would be building these specific AI kind of agents to like, you know, to perform tasks and or to run certain elements of businesses. So, so in the fitness space, yeah, look, I think kind of how we're doing it, but I'm not sure. Like it's going to be really, really interesting. I think every industry is obviously going to get extremely disrupted with AI and the technology behind it. But yeah, I'm not sure. Like I think for Gym, like we kind of value the coaching, like, but I think there's ways it can be done through cameras and like monitoring movement patterns and recognizing like, ankle mobility or hip mobility or an injury potentially there and giving you corrective exercises as like a specific program for you to do on top of like your class or whatnot. And so there is, or whether that's accountability, you know, checking in, talking to the AI, like a trusted person, again, mixed with the thing that I like about it at the moment is like we can plug in like certain core values and beliefs. And so like it's like you can kind of guardrail the AI to a certain degree.
So you can keep the soul, you can keep the heart, you're not diminishing that, but it's how can we integrate it to enhance the experience? How can we integrate it to add more value, personalization, and have, again, less human dependence on doing so?
Yes. Yeah, totally. Yeah. So I think it's pretty early though in that. So it's a while away, like, but it's certainly coming.
It's moving fast.
It is moving fast.
It's moving very, very.
I was just trying to make people feel good. No, it is moving very fast. So we're set up to be able to really drive AI through the business. I just don't really like to use it as like I try not to talk about it too much I don't want to like sell something that's not there yet, but it's more like, that's sort of coming, or that's where we're kind of headed. But at the moment, in terms of similar to, I mean, if you've run a business before, like, and you've got coaches, like you're pretty much saying, hey, like when they come in, this is what you say. Like you're giving them a script and you're saying, hi, welcome. Today's class is called X and we're going to be doing X. And this is the exercise that you're going to do. And here's a demonstration of that exercise. And here's what you should and shouldn't do. And it's going to start in 3, 2, 1. And then whether it's a circuit or it's a rep based, or like when you actually break down how it works, it's you can see how AI could easily do that. Especially as when you look at the fact that it can see through cameras. If, again, specific to us, where it's like if we care about movement or movement patterns. And again, we're not doing anything complicated. Like we're trying to create like the world's best workout for people that don't like gyms. So we're not doing complicated. There's no like barbell, complex moves. And again, in classes too, like I think sometimes people forget, I don't know if this is an old school thing, but like you shouldn't be injured. So like if you're coming into a class, like, or a group environment, there's an expectation that you're not injured. And if you are, you probably shouldn't be there. And I think that's, I mean, not a rant, but I think that got a bit blurry over the years. So I think if we go back to that stage when we sort of met, we were looking at, okay, how do we make the business model more efficient with personal training? And small group was where it was sort of heading. And it was, but within the small group setting, it was still a customized workout. So it was a set workout of the day, but there was a progression and a regression for each movement pattern. And then you're lining up the 4 people in your class and you're customizing the workout based on where they're at. And about 4 was a sweet spot, maybe push it to 6. But then what happened was that, people start going, what about if we make it 8? What about 12? And I was doing that as well, right?
Yeah.
Like as in, and then I think, one of the models that came out was like, well, we're going to put like, say 27, 30 people in the room and do like group training or group coach, and kind of created, I guess, the perception of like, there's a personal trainer in the room, like coach in the room. But if really it's a class, like it's just a class. They might correct somebody's form, but they can't correct 30 people's form at once. And so that kind of got a little bit diluted, I think, along the way. And so like, I don't say anything because I just don't really care that much. But we do get the like, oh my gosh, like you don't have a coach, like, there's a coach, and I'm like, that's not a coach. That's like a motivator, or that's leading the class or instructing the class.
Yeah, there is a difference between someone almost being a cheerleader to coaching.
Yeah, and it's great though. Like I think it's good, and I think it's like I think they serve a place, but to me, like that's not coaching.
Yeah.
Like, but if you need coaching as well, like then you shouldn't be going to that class. Like if you need something customized because whether it's a bad shoulder or a bad knee or something like that, then yes, you probably need a trainer to help write your program. But this is like for, there's an assumption you're not injured. And again, specific to like people who are just coming for the first time or beginners.
Congratulations on what you've built. It's and continuing to build. It's very, very exciting every time we catch up, which is not that often, but every time we do, you've got more locations everywhere. Every second suburb I drive in, it looks like there's a gym happening. So I want to acknowledge and congratulate you on the incredible progress and growth. I know you're just getting started. A question that I love to ask all of our guests, Jarad, just before we wrap up, and that is around advice. Specifically, what is the best advice you have ever been given or received? And how has it served you in building Jim into a national brand?
I got the rare opportunity to meet Lindsay Fox once, and who's like a really successful business guy in Australia. And he said something along the lines of know your strengths and your weaknesses and delegate your weaknesses out. And I think that kind of stuck. And I think personally, I've always tried to like be really critical, like from a self-awareness point of view, so that, and I think that's served me well.
Very, very sound advice. Well, I'm looking forward to doing another episode and hearing the next iteration of the business journey and growth. But I just want to thank you so much for contributing so much wisdom to our Profit Made Simple audience. Thank you for always being on call when I need it, and very excited for what is to come for you and the brand itself.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for watching and listening to today's episode. If you got value, you know what to do. Give us a like, share, comment, and make sure other people benefit from this very valuable conversation. Thank you.